Dude, it's still here. Right where I left it.
Extreme close up.
Yep, it's a transmission.
But most people haven't seen this part of the transmission.
I have not seen this part of the transmission, I don't think, and coincidentally I've also not wanted to see that, but it doesn't really matter today because we need a new main seal. Oh no! Oh, these things are so gutless, that's why I don't like them. Ugh. No, I just go straight to half-inch. That's what the cool kids do.
Alright, how are we doing this?
Well, try to find out the...
Whatever this thing is, does it have to come off?
No.
Okay. Oh, nice! Dude, that was easy.
You real... Oh, yeah, that's super simple.
Oh, sweet, and that's gotta be the seal.
Yep.
Dude, why can't everything be this easy? Look, there's even oil in here.
Yeah.
Someone must have really loved this little car.
It's like they designed it right. It's not even like supported by the housing.
Dude.
I was expecting to find this bearing in that housing, and when we pulled it out, that whole shaft,
no.
like...
Dude, this is like, everybody says mid-90s Japanese quality is as good as it gets. Dude, that actually does look pretty legit. I mean, I don't know what I'm looking at, but it looks pretty cool. Alright, so I'm guessing that this is in fact leaking because if we look past the seal, there's definitely a lot of caked on grease and stuff in here. And so maybe, hopefully this will just kind of pry out. Now one thing Mechanic Steve told me that has stuck with me is you can't really judge a seal on appearance all the time, because sometimes what happens with these things is the rubber starts to degrade, so the seal looks fine, but really it's lost its elasticity, so it can't really grip onto stuff. Steve, you're probably cringing watching me do this. What's the best way to rip one of these out? Is there one? Or you just kind of have to jack with it?
Jack with it. You can get a really long screwdriver and stick it from the other side and try to fish it to the corner of that. Use a little hammer.
I'll use this. Is this my free screwdriver? I don't know. I found a screwdriver just like this in my yard, and it's like, oh, this saves me $6. That's the greatest thing ever. Could have gone the entire rest of your life without needing to know that, but now you won't have to. Yeah, man, I can't really get a good bite at it. This thing needs to be wider.
That's why your toolbox has more than one tool.
I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's just I can't really hit it from the backside without, without having a bent tool or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think I've ripped down to the rubber or the steel part underneath the rubber. So, shoot, I wish I had some vice grips like the needle nose ones. That'd be perfect for this. I think I have some, but I don't know where. I never use them. Fence tool. Dude, this might actually do it.
Come on, Farmer Fred. Yay!
Oh!
Almost set a Jeep on fire one time. When I first started Midas.
Yeah.
I cleaned the frame rail because I needed to weld the exhaust hanger on it. So I cleaned the frame rail with brake clean and the stainless steel wire brush. Went over, got the welder, came over, put my ground up, hit one spark, whoosh, hole underneath the side of this Jeep on fire. And so I run over to grab the fire extinguisher, put it out, look around, nothing. Nothing caught on fire, it was just burning off the brake clean and everything, but no, it's probably fine. As long as the surface.
A little more it is. This is our new seal, and it actually looks like the right seal. This is a 1981 National brand seal, Mexico's finest. And let's see, does it go that way, right?
Yep.
Because that's the way the old one was. Is there a trick to this? Should we like put some splooge on it and push it in or something?
No, you don't want to put silicone on it. Some manufacturers will state put silicone on it, but just a socket comparable to the same size and drop down with a dead blow. Or what we could do, Chucky, is you have a lathe, so we can drive to North Fort Worth, pick up some tool steel, come back, turn it down the final diameter, then we can turn down the inner diameter that is perfect, then we can heat treat and anneal it and then send it out for coating, for plating, and in 3 weeks we'll have it back.
I think this is how you're supposed to use this.
Yeah.
It's important we get as many chunks of brass off this hammer in the transmission as possible. It really breaks down and the oil adds that extra lubricating effect.
See, if you ever have a tractor that's non-synchronized transmission, just add brass shavings. It'll be synchronized. Hi-oh!
I think we're there.
Good.
So, Steve, you were saying this is not only a gasket but also a shim, so we should probably reuse it and not jack with it.
Yeah, so the way you can tell the difference on these, like if you pull it off, like pick it up and just kind of help pinch it in your fingers flat, you see how it's
pretty firm.
Yeah, it's real firm. It's actually a piece of probably aluminum or stainless steel or something like that, coated in like a kind of a gasket deal. So if you take that off and you just RTV it, the gap between the two is going to be different.
Right.
Now, I don't think that's going to cause too big of a problem because it's just an input, you know, the housing for the seal basically. But
I'm going to clean this up a little. But clearly it was made to go one way, so don't jack with it. Just do it how the manufacturer wanted it.
Yeah. So if you guys take a gasket off like that, you know, and it's really, you can tell it's made out of metal, it's a shim, put it back in. It's a shim, put it back in. That's a new song, Chucky.
It is.
Y'all can buy it on iTunes.
It's really important we can just dribble acetone like into the transmission.
So, I'll tell you a cool story. One time, I'm working at Bruckner Mac, and I'm doing a clutch job on what they call a triple countershaft transmission. This transmission is massive. I mean, I could barely, like right now, I could barely wrap my arms around it. I mean, it's
a big thing.
Yeah, I don't know what the circumference is, but it weighs like 1,200, 1,300 pounds, maybe more. Okay. And it's an 18-speed Mac transmission. And they call them a triple X or I forget what the other name. People mess up the name they call it. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm underneath the truck. I've been bolt this brand new, you know, $2,000 clutch in, twin disc clutch. Bolted in, I go to start sliding the transmission in, and when I do, I'm using my foot on the back of the jack to try to, like, you know, move the back of the transmission around to get it lined up.
Yeah.
And I get the input shaft almost all the way into the clutch, but it's not all the way into the pilot bearing, and then my foot hits the release on the jack.
Oh.
And so the transmission comes crashing down very fast, and as soon as it does it, I scatter. I'm like, you know, I'm diving out from underneath the truck.
I'd be gone.
And the entire transmission was supported just by the input shaft.
Wow.
And sitting there, and like the jack was like completely released. You know, there was a gap between the jack and the back of the transmission. There was jack wasn't holding anything. It was supported just by that input shaft.
Guardian angels, man.
Yeah, I get the jack back up, back underneath the transmission, jack the transmission up, pull the transmission out, and it just destroyed the input shaft and the clutch.
I bet they were thrilled.
Yeah, a couple grand worth of damage.
There.
Surprisingly, they didn't, you know, the boss was cool. He's like, hey, man, you know, you're new. That happens. And we get it. You know, you're trying to get the transmission lined up. And you hit it with your foot. It happens all the time.
Well, this one's made out of aluminum, so how bad can it be? Dang, these are some long bolts. I think this ratchet's starting to slip. I never actually even wanted to buy this thing, to be honest. It came with my, it came in a set with the 231 Impact that I still have, and I got it in like 2011 for $200 or something, which as a high school kid was pretty much all the money in the universe to me. And I still have it, and it served me really well. So for a free tool, it's been pretty good, but I think it's wearing out a little bit. You see that? It's kind of...
Yeah.
I think it's probably there's probably like a friction disc or a clutch in there I can fix. I don't know. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear people in the comments are going to say, oh, you're not oiling it. You're not oiling it.
Yeah, I have as many faults as the next guy, but at least I'm good about oiling air tools. Oh well, this is like the entry level Ingersoll too. It's not even one of their good ones.
Well. So we're going to get the transmission, put it on the jack over there, slide it underneath the Pathfinder, and start lining it up. There's really no, man, it's hard to talk when you can't hear yourself.
I find it easier. Because that way there's not that internal block. If I should really shut up right now, you can just carry on.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to film every single step of the way. Transmissions, like they slide in and they're very frustrating a lot of times. And if I'm trying to film and everything, I'm probably going to get mad and start kicking the Pathfinder.
Dude, this thing's mint, not a dent on it.
Yeah, I don't want to be the one that causes all the dents. So you just put I'll time lapse it or something, but you just got to slide it in, and then I don't have any words of wisdom for you. I mean, the only thing is if it doesn't fit and it's almost all the way there, don't put a bolt in the hole and draw it close. That's how accidents happen. That's how you crack bell housings, you crack engines, you crack whatever the bolt goes into or worse, and input shafts, and it happens all the time. And I was doing an engine swap on a Chevy, and the guy that I had with me did it one time, or he was underneath the truck, I was on top, and I didn't, I second guessed him in my head, and I was like, I should probably crawl underneath this truck and check this, and BAM! Oh! I was like, what happened? And then all of a sudden the the transmission slid together with the engine. I'm like, all right, so we spend the next like 14 hours getting this engine put back in, and go start it up, and no gears. So I had to pull the transmission back out and eat a transmission rebuild.
All right, so Steven and I have both been riding the struggle bus on this job. There's this plate, like a spacer plate. Think that gasket thing that you saw earlier, but on a much larger scale. It's about an 1/8 inch thick. And Steve's laying down there on the creeper, and I'm trying to get this clean, and I'm looking at this thing like there is no way the flywheel is gonna fit, through this, because the opening's like this big, and obviously the flywheel's like this big. Like, Steve, we weren't supposed to put this on before the flywheel and the clutch and everything, were you? And he's like, so, but that's okay. In another feat of incompetence, we managed to smash this sensor, which is like a speed sensor. I don't understand how this works. Steve says he thinks it like measures the teeth that go by on the ring gear on the flywheel, so we know how fast the engine's spinning, right? And we're like, well, we can do without the high-low sensors on this thing, because manual transfer case, but this we should probably actually have. So we broke it probably a month ago when we took this thing apart to the O'Reilly, the local auto parts store, and buy this thing for $50, and it's made out of like really cheap, flimsy, crappy plastic. And like, look at this, they don't even give you the O-ring. $50 dues, and it doesn't even come with an O-ring. So this is, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail, or whatever it goes like. Whatever, we're just happy to get this going. I hope I have an O-ring that'll actually fit on this. Yeah, so whatever, we'll eventually fabric cobble this thing back together. Sucks spending $50 on this little flimsy piece of junk, but ultimately I think the whole car was like $400. I don't even remember, because we've been working on it for so long.
Well, we'll try fitting it in there. There's no oil or anything that's blocking, it's just dust, so it doesn't,
Just a dusty deal. Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, if we didn't replace that right now, we'd be really fighting with it later.
Yeah, that would, I'm glad we... Oh, hey, O-ring fits. Cool. And just one little bolt. So how do you think this works, Steve? It's like a magnet deal? Here, let me pull the light around.
It's just a little Hall effect sensor, and it's just counting the teeth that go by.
Dude, that's so clean.
Yeah, that's good.
Ready when you are.
All right, so we have the new bearing. Got the old bearing and this little, whatever you want to call it, the cast steel piece, cast iron. We're going to use Chucky's press and press it out, see if we can't have some explosions and some fire.
It's really important to use the Pittsburgh Pro sockets. The regular ones will explode and kill us all.
Yeah.
Dude, this is what's great about having a 50-ton press. It doesn't even feel that, but I bet you that'd be straight up miserable to have to do with a bench vise.
Voila! She's out!
It's always best to have as much grit on anything you press together as possible, so it really gets like driven in there.
Yeah.
Adds an extra locking mechanism.
Hey, ready for story time?
Yeah, hit us up.
I think I've already told the story before, but you guys haven't heard it. When I was at UTI, back in 2001, they had the Hot Rod University program.
This is a good story.
You heard it?
Yeah.
So there was one particular guy in one of the Hot Rod U classes that was going to rebuild an engine, and his dad or grandpa was a NASCAR builder. Takes the bearings out, and he grabs some about 280 grit sandpaper, and then the bearings are kind of half moon shaped, starts sanding them down, and we're like, whoa, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, well, my grandpa taught me this trick. If you sand them down a little bit, you get a little less friction, and the RPM of the crank will turn a little faster, a little more torque. And and the instructor's like, no, that's not how it works. And the guy's like, oh yeah, and he sands this damn thing down until you see copper. I mean, the whole like nickel coating on the outside is just gone. And so we're like, yeah, and he puts it together, and yeah, it did rotate over. Like when you barred it over, it was a little easier than the rest of the motors. Started it up, put it on the dyno, and in the middle of the dyno pool, I don't know how much horsepower it's making, but we were all there one day, and you hear it Brrr, kaboom! Blows the side of the freaking block out, and the rod just punches through the side of the engine and blows up. And it was because he decided to shave the bearings down. Now, there is a engine builder trick to where you very lightly, you know, like an old school deal, you took like 1,000 grit 2,000 grit sandpaper, and you kind of just barely gave it a little rub. And that was it. That's all you needed to do. I will never do it. Yeah, I'm just not that interested in that, you know, this much horsepower, you know. Engine builders, dragsters, you know, drag car builders, I get it. You know, you try to do anything you possibly can, but yeah, that's my story time. So don't shave your bearings down.
All right, so Mechanic Steve and I are still on the struggle bus, but things are getting better. As you can possibly see, there is no longer a cross member underneath this transmission. That's because we were working away, and Steve just said, you know, hurt it because reasons, it'll be easier without this. So you have to take the whole transmission out, and sure enough, it is much easier without the cross member. So lesson learned, removify that before attempting this. But Steve, it's looking really good. What do you have to comment on this? A vastly enjoyable experience that we're going to go out of our way to recreate every single possible chance whatsoever.
I could tell you, if you ever buy anything again that needs a clutch, I'm gonna start speaking Spanish only.
Dude, I was gonna say we should go and we should go out and buy a bunch of like cheap cars on Craigslist that just need clutches. Think about it. You know, we'd have endless work and we could make tens of dollars per day doing it.
Yeah, man, tens of dollars.
Yeah. Isn't that right, Lucky? Steve is one of Lucky's favorite humans because a certain someone knows he gets fed at a certain time every day. And Lucky, what are you doing? Get over here and be photogenic. Yeah, he knows he gets fed at a certain time every day, and he wasn't fed, and he was like underneath the car poking at us and stuff. He's like, remember to feed me, guys. I don't ask for much. You know, and so Steve's like, you know, I'll jack with this if you want to run in there and feed him. So I do, and of course his food's gone inside of 30 seconds. And we have to figure out how much more effective we would be at our jobs in life as a whole if we ate as quickly as this dog does. Lucky, don't sniff the microphone. You've been fed. Why are you over here? Oh yeah, I did call you over. All right.